Welcome back to the Plant Powered Collective podcast, where we explore nourishment on and off the plate and how choices we make today shape our health, resilience, and vitality tomorrow. I'm Lori Walensky, certified integrative nutrition coach and founder of the Plant Powered Collective. Today's conversation is one I've been really looking forward to. I'm joined by Jodi Scott, co-founder of Green Goo, a plant-based first aid and herbal wellness company. And this company is built alongside her mom and her sister on their family farm. What started as a handmade salves infused in mason jars grew to a nationally trusted brand used by families so looking for cleaner and more effective alternatives for everyday skincare and first aid. Jodi's background in biology, psychology, and health physiology, paired with her lived experience of building, losing, and then buying back her company again, gives her a powerful and grounded perspective on skin health, resilience, and conscious leadership. This conversation is especially meaningful for women in midlife who are rethinking wellness, simplicity, and integrity, and how we care for our bodies and our lives. Hi, Jodi. I am so thrilled to have you here on the Plant Powered Collective podcast. I've been really looking forward to this conversation because your story resonates with me on so many levels. I love that Green Goo is women owned. I love that you built it with your mom and your sister. I love that it's rooted in real life, like literally straight from the beginning. There's something so meaningful about a family working together to bring natural plant-based care into the world. What I especially admire about you and the brand is the way you talk about ingredients with real transparency. You know, you don't just list what's in your products, you explain why those plants matter and what they do and how they've been studied and why they belong in something we put on our bodies. That commitment to science-informed plant-based formulations and ingredients transparency is something I know many of our listeners will value, and I know I personally value that a lot. I love that this conversation today is a perfect mirror for how I approach health as a certified integrative nutrition coach, because for me, it's not just what's on the plate for nutrition, it's what's around the plate as well. It's what is on our bodies, it's what we clean our houses with, it's what the fragrances, everything, for me, the water that we use, everything. So, I really thank you for being here, and I'm looking forward to digging into your story and learning more about you.
Thank you for having me, and I love all the things you said, so this will be fun.
All right, awesome. Hey, so the first thing I like to do is kind of allow our listeners to get to know you a little bit better. So I always like to ask sort of a foundational question, and that is, what is nourishing you on and off the plate?
Ooh, so on the plate right now, one of my new rituals is I'm starting my day with soaked chia seeds
Yeah.
and having that instead of jumping straight into my coffee. And I'm actually taking a coffee break. And so I have my chia seeds soaked and a handful of raw almonds.
Mm.
And then I'm having a green tea hawthorn hibiscus tea that I like blend myself. And then I add some lemon. And I'm just starting my day that way with the idea that I'm like easing my way in and like really wakening up my system, but in a gentle way. And it's been really serving me well. So that's
Absolutely.
on the plate.
I love that. And tell me the tea again, because it sounds amazing. I'm a tea person.
Yeah, so I'm just mixing green tea with
Mm.
hibiscus and hawthorn and
Oh,
then fresh
gorgeous.
lemon.
Oh, that's gorgeous. And how about off the plate?
Off the plate, I'm doing my Sanctuary Sunday, which
Oh.
is I take my Green Goo balm
Mhm.
and I just butter up from head to toe. And then I wrap myself in my bathrobe and I just have a nice intentional 30 minutes. Maybe I read or I sit on the porch and be outside, have a nice phone call with someone, and I just let my skin drink up that salve, all that nutritional skincare, and then I get ready for the day.
That's awesome.
And I just love how that feels.
Oh, that's fantastic. Thank you for sharing that with us. Um, Something I really appreciate about how you describe your work is that it challenges the way we categorize wellness. You know, so many of us think about nutrition and fitness and maybe stress management, um, but first aid, you know, in skin, and that's not usually where the conversation starts. Um, as an integrative nutrition coach, I always tell my clients that health is not just what's on the plate. We just talked about that. You know, it's around what's around the plate. It's what we put on our bodies is just as important because a lot of things are hormone disruptors, and particularly for women in midlife. You know, so when people ask you what you do and you say you help people rethink first aid and wellness, what does that really mean in everyday life?
Well, we have accepted that these one-time chemical
Mm,
laden products that are available in first aid and OTC are just what what gets the job done. If it doesn't sting, burn, or dry it out, we think it's not working. And I like to challenge that and say we are damaging our
mm,
skin barrier. We are inhibiting what our skin knows how to do, which is repair itself. And
mm.
we're also inviting a number of endocrine disruptors, paraben phthalates, petroleum, forever chemicals directly into our skin. And when you start to think of your skin rather than just the largest organ and really your first line of
Mhm.
defense and an opportunity for you to one, avoid these ingredients, but then also provide nutritional skincare to your body, it's like a game changer.
Yeah, yeah. I love that term nutritional, you know, something nutritional for our skin, for our bodies. And, you know, I've actually been using, and I have it with me, the pain relief because, you know, I'm older and I have like my knees hurt a little bit. During COVID, long story, but I broke my ankle. And, you know, so my ankle is a little bit stiff sometimes. And I've been using this since like mid-December or so, and it's super helped me, and it also nourishes my skin.
I'll give you a fun hack. So I did this last night. I just had a really stressful day, could feel achy. And so I took a bath and then I did my sanctuary Sunday, but I did it with the pain relief and I just buttered up and then let
Nice.
my put my bathrobe on and let my skin drink it up. And we're also used to this idea that when we have inflammation, we just put it on the injury site. But there's such value to
Yeah,
bringing that anti inflammatory nutrition to your entire body so that all of a sudden your whole body is
yeah,
working towards
yeah,
inflammation reduction and your cortisol drops. It's pretty cool.
yeah, absolutely, and, you know, it's interesting to me because, I agree totally. I have, an autoimmune disease, and that's sort of what got me interested in nutrition way back when, you know, decades ago. And I find that exactly that when I have nutrition, it's not just that one place where there might be nutrition, because oftentimes where my nutrition happens is in my joints, you know, and or in my fingers. And yeah, I'll tell you, this salve has been a game changer. So
Mm.
I love it. We'll talk in a minute about how it's helped my daughters as well, in different ways. But yeah, so you know, so what I'm hearing you say then, if I is that first aid is a lot of times for the way that our country works, our medical environment works, is we're reactive, right? Something hurts, then we put it on, but we don't put it on beforehand. And what
Right.
I'm hearing you say is like really, you know, be proactive with it, and that will build some resilience in our bodies for, you know, for that.
Absolutely. Because what we're doing, so our skin is our first line of defense and it's not just exposed to these chemicals that we're putting on the body, but it's also responding to everything around us. Our skin is born from the same embryonic tissue as our nervous system and is rich in neurotransmitters. And it is the first communicator to your immune system, your nervous system, your psychology. And so when you can treat your skin, instead of I always say, why swim upstream and add all these things you don't need? And then if you really want to swim with the current, add the nutrition so that you can build that skin barrier. And we're destroying our microbiome as well, which our microbiome, it's really important in terms of communicating to
Mhm.
our immune system. When our microbiome is compromised, it is a communicator. It is an ecological part of our balance. So this is like the good flora on our body. It also signals to our immune system like alert, it's not safe. And then of course the immune system needs to respond. And then if you do that in short runs, it's okay, but we're doing that and compounding it over time.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you. And something just before we, go any deeper into that, I wanted to share, something personal, as I had mentioned. Um, my oldest daughter has eczema. She's had eczema since she's been a baby. And so I purchased the dry skin salve for her, and she's been using it. And she lives in Atlanta. I live in Florida. Both my daughters came down from Atlanta in December for the holidays, and so I purchased this dry skin salve for her. And when she's in a different climate, her skin just gets eczema really, really badly, and this has helped her. And she's found the same thing, that when she uses it proactively rather than reactively, that it really helps to make sure that it prevents the eczema from coming back and her having flare-ups.
It's that skin resilience that you
Yeah.
wanna build, and what I would also recommend is for her to stop using soaps, and we have an eczema oil, which is a really interesting shift for people because instead, you're using an oil which really helps complement that
Mhm,
brick and mortar, weave of your skin, and
mhm.
then, obviously it likes the lipids from the oil, and then the hydration can trap it in,
Okay,
and then if she really needs extreme itch relief, then I would do the first aid formula for a little bit while doing the dry skin formula,
okay,
because the first aid just has a handful more powerful herbs when you're having that, like, itch flare up.
okay.
And then I'll add the skin repair once you have the flare up under control
Yep,
and it seems like it's calmer,
yeah.
when you bring in that repair, that
Mhm.
is your skin repair. So to your point, building that resilience ahead of time, you can shift it because it's the helichrysum, the rose hips, the blue yarrow, and then the
Mhm.
aloe do a beautiful job of penetrating that skin layer and really giving it the vitamins it needs.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, speaking of actually the dry skin salve, I actually got, oh, I'm sorry, the skin repair healing salve. I got that from my youngest daughter. So my kids are close in age. They're 15 months apart. One's
Mhm.
29 and 30. And so she uses actually the skin repair healing salve on her face.
Yep.
And she loves it as well. She's my girl that loves to, like, she's that moisture. She'll put
She wants
moisturizer
that
on. Yep.
dewy,
Yep.
healthy skin. That's the skin
Exactly.
repair.
So,
You got it.
and she's just, really found it super supportive, and for me, the pain relief salve, like we just talked about, and, I got the deodorant.
Oh,
The
good.
yeah, the
Oh,
immune wait,
so
no, I'm
fun.
sorry, because I can never remember, the immunity and defense one,
Mhm.
and, I will tell you, I have, probably used every natural deodorant, maybe not every, but close to, and, they always give me a rash, and this one hasn't, and it just smells so delicious. People always ask me what perfume I have, and I'm like, "It's my deodorant," so, I really appreciate your products so much,
Oh, I'm
yeah,
so glad you got that. And fun fact about the deodorant, as long as we're
and
talking about it, we're always studying the transdermal absorption. And
mhm.
if you think about your armpit, it's a different kind of skin. It looks
Right.
different, and it's right there next to your lymphatic tissue. And it absorbs about 70% of what you put in there.
Right.
So it's really important to avoid certain ingredients, but it's
Mhm.
also an opportunity to have nutrition. So we were like, well, let's add more nutritional properties. So we added like ginkgo biloba, echinacea, functional mushrooms, ashwagandha, holy basil, and different vitamins so
Mhm.
that you can it's almost like a nutritional portal, and then we have the magnesium, which is great for our systems and also helps with the rash that some of us will have that sensitivity to, so
Sure.
I'm glad that you enjoy it.
Yeah. Tell me, so how do you go about formulating these products? Because it's it seems to me that it's so intentional, and that you're using maybe ingredients that aren't always used, let's say, for a deodorant, because you're really thinking intentionally about, not only is it a deodorant, but it's an opportunity for health. in nutrition.
Absolutely. So my sister's an herbalist and a midwife. And
Okay.
then I was pre-med. So I got my master's in health psychology, specialized in psychoneuroimmunology,
Okay.
and was training resident physicians on the biopsychosocial model. What does that mean in practice? I was passionate about improving healthcare, and I wanted to do more than just prescribe and really get to know the patient as a whole person to find out if there were other barriers that we could remove or assist with while we were giving them their prescription. And then the psychoneuroimmunology is very full circle with the skin. It's very much your
Mhm.
mind, your body, or your immune system, your nervous system, and or I already said that, your immune system, your nervous system, and psychology all working together. And when we started this, it was really interesting because the origin story, I was pregnant and I
Mm.
got a cut and I went to my first aid cabinet, which was a total mess, like all first
Mhm.
aid cabinets are.
Right.
And I was reading the label and I was like, ew, I don't want to put this on my body while I'm pregnant. And then I was like, ooh, I don't want to put this on my daughter. And then I was like, why do I think that this is okay to make this exception? Like we're eating healthy foods, we're checking the
Uh-huh.
labels. How did I miss this?
Right.
And what we found is that the natural consumer was willing to abandon their natural ethos because they were told that these were the only solutions to get the job done. And then what was even more interesting is that chronic skin conditions are at an all-time high. And the conventional consumer was less worried about the ingredients, but more wanted higher efficacy.
Yeah.
And so when my sister was going to herb school, we huddled up and we were like, let's make plant-based first aid. And
Mm.
so taking her herbal wisdom and then taking my Western medicine
Mhm.
and organic chemistry, we were able to put this together. And what I think was like the biggest epiphany in us doing this was so much of the OTC market is like treat the symptom at any cost.
Right.
And it's really sort of temporary, right?
Right.
And what we found is that if you stimulate what the body already knows how to do,
Mhm.
that in itself works. And so when you think of about a blister and you think about a cold sore, the body's actually doing a very similar response. So what we needed to do is find the herbs that work to slow down the swelling and speed up the healing, take the sting and the itch out. And so that's how we did it. And they are registered with the FDA, so the FDA does recognize certain herbs as having medicinal properties. So,
Right.
for example, calendula is recognized as an astringent. But of course, we know as the herbalist that it does a whole lot more than that.
Right, right. It's interesting. I lived in Shanghai for almost 13 years with when my kids, they were basically 1 and 2 until they were 13 and 14, thereabouts. And it's interesting. So when my daughter had an eczema flare up and I brought her um uh, to to the doctor, he was Western trained, but the first thing he said to me is, "What is she eating?" Right? And he said, "I could give her steroids," he said, "but don't put it on her face because it will disfigure her."
Mm,
And I thought to myself, "Why would then I wanna put that on her body?" And so he said, well, he was also trained in, traditional Chinese medicine, so he gave me a salve, and he didn't know the English name for some of the ingredients, but I'm like, "Hey, listen, I'll try it," 'cause he said, "It's all natural, it's all herbs," they compound it in the back of in the back
mhm.
of his office, and, it cleared it up,
That's so
and
great.
so, yeah, I am a big believer in, um natural products being able to get to the root of things, not just mask the symptom.
Exactly. And this is just bringing forward ancient traditions. This is
Yeah.
something that's been around for so long.
Mhm.
And truly, I don't think anyone intended to hurt anyone. The Industrial Revolution came along for the first time. They could mass produce consumer goods for people. And we didn't have the transportation or the infrastructure or the technology we have today. And more value meant more volume. So they were like, let's just stuff it with all these things, including water. So now we need to have all these other synthetic stabilizers.
Mhm.
And and maybe it would get to someone within 4 years.
I
And we now know today without a doubt the impact of these ingredients on our body. But we didn't know that for a while. It was kind of up to for debate.
right.
And so what I really love is this shift now that we actually have science to back the
Mhm.
plants, to prove their value. And now it's just a matter of getting the message out that these solutions are available. And a lot of what people have had on the market. So some people will go, I've tried natural products, they just don't work as well.
Mhm.
Well, more than likely, what you've had is like a little itsy bitsy part of the plant,
Right.
and it's been compromised by high heat or alcohol or some chemical. So you're just getting a little bit of that plant property. And it might have been mixed with like a paraben or petroleum. So it's just sitting on the surface of your skin.
Right.
And so it's really that process and how you protect the integrity of the plant to give you that efficacy, which is why we are whole foods, whole plants. We still make the ingredients ourselves.
That's amazing. So you spoke about this business with your sister and combining the skill sets that both of you have. Um, how did that also shape the culture of the company?
Well, first, they were my best friends. So we grew up in the military, we moved around everywhere together, and we just realized that they were our people.
Mhm.
And we went through hard times and great times, and I think foundationally that really helped us.
Mhm.
And we also were really proactive. We were afraid that our relationships would be compromised because we had heard a lot about family businesses having challenges.
Mhm.
So we sought counsel, met with other groups who had either ran or were a part of family businesses, and sought out good hygiene. What are some good practices we can do to protect the relationship? And that spoke volume for us building that foundation from a business perspective as well, and sure helped us along the way when we ran into difficult times. Now, was it always rainbows and butterflies? No. um, but we were able to move through them, and it was cute. I'll never forget because eventually, like, our husbands are working for the company and all this sort of stuff. And my sister and I, like, we are best friends. She graduated from high school early to come to college with me.
Oh
We
yeah.
were roommates all through college. She lives one house down. And so,
Okay, this makes me
um
so happy because my daughters also because they were third culture kids. They basically grew up in China, and then we moved back to the States. And I always said to them, like, you guys are best friends. You guys have each other, and now they both live and work in Atlanta, and they live together.
mm,
And yeah, so and I am a big proponent. And people always say to me, my some of my friends that have kids the same age, they always say, I can't believe that your daughters get along so well. And I'm like, I can't believe that they wouldn't get along so well. So it's so nice to find like two sisters that get along so well, and just yeah, it's just
it's
wonderful.
such a gift.
It
And
really
and
is.
we're so yin and yang, which is so
Yeah,
beautiful, and we
my kids
swap
do.
roles. We
Mhm.
swap like, one day we had this moment, we were like, "Why does someone have to be the funny one, and someone has to be the pretty one, and someone has to be the smart one? Like, why don't we just pass that baton back and forth?" And we really, like, own that.
I love that. I love that. Something you talk about that you describe yourself more as a human first and not just a founder or an entrepreneur, and that really stood out to me. You talked a bit about when Green Goo was born, but can you tell me a little bit about the name? I love the name. It's just so much fun.
It was so counterculture, I love it.
I know.
So many people counseled us and told us, "If you're gonna be in first aid, you need to look like first aid,
Yeah.
and you need to look like you can sit next to Neosporin." And I said, "Well, if we do that, then we're just gonna sit on the shelf and look like everything else, and we're not. We're here to change first aid. We want to disrupt the space."
Yeah.
And so I was like, let's do bright colors and packaging and let's put some storytelling on it and inspire people because that's what we want to do. And so when we were like, what is the name? And because we still make the ingredients, like we were growing these herbs in our backyard, we're drying them on old screen doors on our front porch,
Oh,
we're
wow.
brewing this in our kitchen, and we protected that process. And so there's real plants, and it's kind of a green hue, some of
Hmm.
these.
Hmm.
And we're like, "And it's sustainable." So we were, like, playing off of the green, and we're like, "But we don't wanna call it an ointment. That sounds so like, medical." And we're like, "It's like a goo." And then we're like, "Oh my gosh, green goo." But we only named the first product Green Goo. So one out of the 20 products, our flagship first aid was Green Goo. and
Okay.
everything else was a different name. And
Okay.
for the first 3 years of our business, we would meet people and they would pull out their tin and it wouldn't even be Green Goo, it would be the pain relief or the dry skin. And they're like, "I got Green Goo." I'm like, "No, you don't. Actually, like, the Green Goo's the orange one." But they all called it Green Goo, and finally we all looked at each other, we're like, "Okay, the brand is Green Goo. It's all Green Goo."
Wow.
The customers decided.
Yeah. Yeah. So, um, tell me a little bit about how the company grew, because it seems like it grew exponentially overnight.
Did.
Yeah.
So, we went from, like, 0 stores to 150,000 points of distribution in less than 5 years. It was nuts, and, of course, we all came from different backgrounds.
Yeah.
We weren't, CPG or, whatever whatever you wanna call it. We had never done that before, and so I'm on the road 3 weeks out of the month meeting with, retailers, and, of course, no one used the term plant-based either. So, I'm
Right.
sitting down with a national pharmacy buyer, and I'm like,
Mhm.
"I've got a natural plant-based first aid." He's like, "Those don't go in the same sentence, like, that's not even a
Right. Right.
thing."
Right.
Yeah, and I'm like, "Just go home and try it and give it a whirl," and then he did, and he came back and it made the shelf, but it was very disruptive forging that path, and it wasn't until really around the pandemic or post-pandemic that the term plant-based became a term that people could understand and relate to and actually give credibility to.
Yeah.
But until then, it was forging the path and really going out there, going to trade shows, and shooting from the rooftops like, "Hey, there is an alternative, and we
Yeah.
wanna change that perspective."
I love that. And it seems like this is then probably the right time with things being plant based and plant forward is terminology now that pretty much everyone knows. Whether they agree with it or not, you know, is another story. I've been plant based personally, nutritionally, and increasingly, in every aspect of my life. Since the age of 14. So it's been decades. And I grew up around Boston, and vegetarian wasn't a term, vegan wasn't a term.
Nope.
People just thought that I was weird and that I only wanted to eat plants.
So relate. I love that we're like soul sisters in all these ways. Yeah, I went vegan when I was 11,
Well,
and
I
I
that.
people will be like, "So you don't eat or you're a vegetarian?" I'm like,
Yeah.
"I don't know, I just don't eat meat." "So you're a vegan?" "I don't know, I just don't eat dairy." Like,
Yeah.
I didn't even know what to call it.
Right, exactly. And ultimately something that think everyone's bio individual because meat
Mhm.
never sat well with me. My parents didn't understand it. They're New Englanders through and through. You eat what's on your plate. The good thing is we always had, and my grandparents always had gardens in the summertime, so that
Mhm.
helped after I got diagnosed with an autoimmune disease. I found that in the summertime I felt better because I was
That's
eating
so
super fresh
right.
vegetables. Yeah.
That's so
So.
great. And I think part of my journey and including with my sister and my mom was that I made that decision at such a young age and it was really counterculture to our family too, because to your point, it was like meat and potatoes and that's what we had for dinner. And my mom was so supportive. She had me see a nutritionist and
Yes.
then she let me do the grocery shopping. She was like, "All right." And then I think we really shifted as a family to a
Mhm.
more health forward lifestyle that we weren't doing before. I mean, before we were just on the go, eating fast food. It's just what we did,
Yeah.
and we didn't know any better.
I love the Green Goo products. It's important to invest in our health. There's so much peer-reviewed and science-based analysis out there that, all of chronic disease can pretty much be prevented if we just use, you know, whole foods, predominantly plant-based products and nutrition. It's really interesting. I think that, y you know, y the Green Goo products really complement everything nutritionally that we put in our bodies.
Oh, here's a fun story for
Yeah.
you. So, my mom's the one who introduced us to plants, and she was a master gardener. And because we moved around all the time,
Oh.
she didn't want to plant a garden and then leave. It would be too expensive. So she
Mhm.
would have a lot of potted plants. And those potted plants became like our home. Every time we moved, they were like, "Oh, we're home," because we just set them all out. But we were in the car one time and we're always crying leaving one place and going
Mhm.
to the next, and the plants are in her face, and, um, at one point, were like, "Okay, mom, we know why the plants aren't with the movers because they wouldn't make it, but we
Mhm.
keep carrying around this box of skincare products every single move. And by the way, like, why are you still using it? Because I feel like we've had this for 4 or 5 moves and you're still not using it." And we're like, "Why is this with us?" And she goes, "Well, the movers can't take it because it's
Mm.
flammable." And I go, "Flammable?" She goes,
Oh,
"Yeah." And I go, "You put stuff that's flammable on your skin?" And at the time, there weren't labels on
mhm.
skincare the way that there are today, and both my sister and I were like, "We will never do that." But it was like one of those moments that put it on our radar as we went through our wellness journey to say, "Hey, we can't overlook this
Yeah,
because this is for real."
yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. Oh, that's really interesting. There's always those, pivotal moments that sort of, begins that little manifestation into, like, and
Into a
remind
path.
and exactly, into what you're gonna be doing in the future. I love that. Um, let's come back to the skin. I'd really like to ask you, why do you think first aid has been overlooked as a wellness category?
I think it's been overlooked because we've just accepted it as what it is. First aid is over here, health and beauty is over here. They're two very different categories. Health and beauty is
One.
what you're supposed to look like, and first aid is supposed to be, here we're addressing an acute skin condition. And what's
Mhm.
interesting is that people are confused too because they're going to both sides to say, I have a chronic skin condition and I'm looking for a solution. And we also know that when you have healthy skin, you glow and you look better. And I think there's something in our DNA that we know that. And there's just been really unfortunate marketing pushing us in a direction to buy things that really aren't serving our skin. And so
Yeah.
I think a lot of it is marketing and what we've been told to be true.
So if you were to really talk about your products and let the listeners, know about them and how to get started with them, what would you recommend? Like, what product would you recommend that's a good kind of entry point product?
I didn't even notice, and I think, yeah, you're good. Um, so, I mean, if I could make a recommendation, there'd be 2, but there's 2 sets of thoughts here.
Mhm. Okay.
So, first would be clean out your first aid cabinet and get your first aid bundle from Green Goo. There's 4 products in it. Number 1, there's the Green Goo First Aid, which
Mm.
is your Neosporin alternative, but it is also your first aid kit on the go for cuts and scrapes, but bug bites, bee stings, poison ivy, cold sores, chafing, blisters, ingrown toenails, sunburns, all the things. And it slows down the bleeding, speeds up the healing, takes the sting and the itch out. You can give it to your kids. It's safe for your dogs.
Mm.
Really great for taking the sting out. No neomycin. Number 2 would be the dry skin formula, like what your daughter has, which is it's your natural hydrocortisone. So it is for chronic dry skin, psoriasis, eczema. John Hopkins has been using that in their scleroderma and skin condition department for over a decade. Not only does it help with the inflammation, but there are specific herbs that calm the nervous system. And this is great for winter. You don't need to have eczema to appreciate this product. You can
Mhm.
use this as your winter lotion alternative. So this is where like we kind of bridge health and beauty a little and use this head to toe, build that skin barrier, calm your system. Next one is pain relief, just like you. So this is the third one in the bundle. And same thing, it is great for muscle recovery, injury recovery, but truly managing your inflammation should be a part of your wellness journey. So
Mhm.
add this to your sanctuary Sunday, butter up from head to toe. Let your body have this once a week just for managing inflammation. Get that blood flow moving.
Mm.
And then the skin repair, which is not only, an afterburn and scar, like a Moderna alternative, So if you have a burn on your hand, you get sunburnt, you have a scar you want to address, but it is amazing for sunspots and anti-aging. So again, lotion alternative, use it head to toe, put it on your face and neck every night before you go to bed, and your skin is so hydrated. The helichrysum, the aloe vera, it's amazing. And you think about all the beauty products that you have. Don't eat it. So there's your first aid 4-pack that I would recommend. Now,
Okay.
if you want to have a skincare, I hate to say anti-aging, I really like to say age well, but health and beauty packet, then you
Mhm.
get the Glow and Renew bundle. It's an
Okay.
oil face wash, which if you haven't used an oil face wash before, it is heaven. You'll never want to use soap again, ever. It's like a mask on your face that you can't get off. And then the triple rose serum. This is rich in vitamin C, has 3 roses in it that helps build collagen, elasticity, and skin repair, penetrating the layers. And then you seal it in with that skin repair that's in that 4-pack bundle. Those are the only 3 things you need for health and beauty.
Oh, it's amazing. That's amazing. Thank you. Um,
Mhm. Of course, don't forget your deodorant.
yeah, exactly. And let me tell you, I love it. I love it. Um, so many women in midlife, and that's an area that I sort of specialize in, are waking up to the idea that more is not better. And having that, here are the 4 things you need for first aid. It's a really doable, manageable, systematic like bundle, right?
And it's liberating to
Yeah.
get rid of, like, that box that my mom was bringing with her every single move because you buy something and you feel guilty throwing it away. You don't like, you're, like, scraping the jar, as you're going to get the next one because it's so good.
Yeah, and something that and a lot of women that I work with too are, leaders, they're professional midlife women, and um, they love systems. They love something that's strategic. And what conversation would you be most excited to have with women in midlife right now, and especially like in the framework of your products?
Well, our skin is changing so much,
Mm.
and it doesn't have to change in a way where you feel like you're looking in the mirror and you're like, "I'm not loving my skin." It doesn't have to be that way, and there's just, like, nourishing your skin and celebrating it. You can have the best skin of your life in midlife
Mm.
when you're doing the right thing with it, and that's awesome.
Yeah, for sure. Um, what does day Okay, I'd like to go back to the business a little bit. What does the day-to-day look like for you? I can't even imagine, um, what that looks like, especially in the framework of having family, not only sister and mom, but husbands and, in the business, and what does that look like on a day-to-day basis?
Whew, depends on the day.
Yeah.
Yeah, we start out with our morning meeting, and everyone really has different roles that they're working on. And so there's production management, there's supply chain, there's fulfillment, there's making sure products getting to the 3PL from the manufacturer to wherever it needs to go. There's making sure that we're managing our website and our creative and our social media,
Mm.
marketing, and goodness, and then it's keeping up with packaging and FDA regulations and, new creative uh and being here with you and
Yeah.
storytelling and sharing. And so it pivots a lot throughout the day, and I really try to make sure I have some moments of presence throughout it. And just kind of take a walk and get some nature in between.
Well,
But
one of
it
the
is, I
things
mean,
that
we're
you're
not traveling as much, which is great.
that's it that is so sorry. Hi, Mr. Coco. He's right down here. He's pawing me like, patting me. So
Aw.
sorry. Um, you
At
know,
least they're not barking. I had to go put my 3 dogs up and say,
uh,
because all it takes is someone to knock on my door, and that's it. We it would
yeah,
be a dog serenade, so
yeah. My dog is right over there, like just laying there, but she's an old dog. So she probably can't hear me. But
Oh.
and so one of the other things though that I'd like to ask you about is you mentioned storytelling. Um, is there a story that you'd like to tell that I haven't asked in the framework of a question yet?
Hmm, that's a great question. Goodness. Well, our mission is spread goodness, so it's not just spreading good products on your body, good ingredients, but it's also how you treat others and creating a culture
Mhm.
that is spreading goodness. And our mission, or excuse me, our vision is bringing forward time-honored traditions. So it's not just protecting the integrity of the formulas and the process, it's having this time with you and storytelling because I think it's such an important part of humanity
Mhm.
and evolution.
Yeah.
And I don't know that I've ever been asked, "Tell me one story," because 'cause I've got a flood of, like, 20 coming at me.
Well, that's okay. You can tell me just whatever comes to I think, storytelling in you know, in just human existence is so pivotal,
It
and
is.
what you're doing is just amazing in terms of the way that you founded the company, the way that you've led it, and and not and most certainly foundationally what it's doing for people, for their health journey. And so I just if there's a story that just comes to mind, I'd love to hear it.
Here's one that people might appreciate that just came to mind that I'm really proud of, and I hope that by me telling this story that I may be able to do more of this work.
Mm.
So, one of my sister and mom and I's dream is to bring more socioeconomic resources to remote locations that complements the culture and the community. And we do a lot of donating and in public service. My sister went to the Philippines after the typhoon, helped birth babies. That really helped us shape the Green Goo first aid in terms of being a portable first aid so it could go in remote emergency medical care situations. But something that we observed often working with these organizations is that they'll come in, they'll have an impact, and then when they leave, it never really sticks.
Mhm.
And we always wondered, well, what if we were to teach these communities bringing forward time-honored traditions some of this plant knowledge that's been lost? And teach them about the native plants, how to grow them, how to process them, and how to make skincare or medicine from them, and then they can sell them at the farmer's market. They can sell them in their local community. And we got the opportunity to do a pilot. So we were able to do a pilot where this particular initiative was bringing back women refugees back to Afghanistan.
Mm.
And how we were able to move this forward was the data showed that if women were a part of bringing in the income, it kept the family unit together and there was more peace and prosperity. And so we taught them how to grow these native herbs, what their like the process. We got the funding for it. We got these beautiful tents and they were able and greenhouses and grow the herbs and sell them in the market and it worked, and the joy that came from that, and so my hope would be that perhaps there's more opportunities to do that around the world.
Oh, that's amazing. That's like just those micro enterprises are really what whole economies are built on. It's amazing. Thank you for
Yeah.
sharing that. I really
Thank you
appreciate
for
it.
asking.
Oh my goodness. Wow. That is really mind blowing. I love that. Um, is there anything else that you'd like to share that I haven't asked?
I think I would love to just encourage people to rethink first aid
Yeah.
and rethink their skin relationship
Right.
because this skin is not just the largest organ. It is a special, special communicator that really does provide balance for the rest of your body.
Mm.
And so, just by taking small little steps of avoiding certain ingredients, so you're not swimming upstream again,
Yeah.
and maybe looking at serving your skin from a nutritional standpoint, um, you'll feel the difference. You'll
Mhm.
feel your cortisol go down, you'll feel your inflammation go down, you'll feel that clarity come in,
Mhm.
and it's really nice. It brings you to presence. If there's one way to describe it, is it, like, really brings you into the moment.
Right. Exactly. Oh, yeah, for sure. Thank you. I am so honored that you wanted to come on Plant Powered Collective. I am just thrilled and honored, and just it's just been a joy to talk with you. And I just thank you for your honest and thoughtful conversation. It was so grounding, and I will put your website in the show notes just to let people know. A lot of our listeners listen on their way to work or on their way home from work, so they don't need to worry about remembering anything. I'll put it all down there and put the bundles in there as well, so that people can
Perfect.
see. And thank you. I
Thank
appreciate it
you.
so
You bet.
much.